Welcome to the Colorado Division of Housing Mobile Home Park Oversight Program's series of registration training videos. It is November of 2023, and my name is Cassie Vandermeer. I am the Program Administrator for Registrations. I will be guiding you through several short videos on registration requirements with the state. In this Part 2, the registration form, I will provide an overview on filling out the program's registration form. It will primarily focus on the online registration form for the example, but much of the information applies to the paper form as well. Before beginning your registration form, there are a few items to note and prepare for. If you're renewing your registration, confirm that you are no more than 60 days before your expiration date. By 60 days, we do mean calendar days, so for example, if your registration expires February 1st, you can submit your renewal starting December 3rd. The program does not accept registration renewals more than 60 days before the expiration date. If you fill out the registration form on paper and submit it early, program staff may contact you to resubmit the form if there have been any changes. Online forms cannot be submitted too early. You will see a warning message at the top of the page letting you know if you are too early. For online renewals, if you've submitted online before, you will be able to log in and renew online by following the steps later in this recording on navigating to the online form. If you have not registered online before or are unsure if you have been activated or don't recall which email address you used for a username, please contact us at mhpop@state.co.us and we can look up your username or activate you to use the online form. Also for online renewals, check what web browser you are using and that you are using a computer. Since our online form is supported by Salesforce, it requires the use of Google Chrome and a computer to work correctly. We have learned in past years that browsers like Safari may drop important and required information that you cannot edit, therefore not allowing users to submit their online form. Phones and tablets also sometimes are unable to upload required documents to the online form, not allowing users to submit. You may also want to confirm some basics about the park's information before you begin your registration form, especially for those using the online form since the form must be completed in a single session. So what are these items you want to prepare? First, you may want to confirm information about your park's water source and water and sewer billing. There are 3 new questions on the registration form asking about this information. We'll touch on those specific questions as we go through the registration form later in this video. Second, you'll need the County Assessor Property Record Card for the parcel or parcels that make up the mobile home park. There is a separate training video available on the program's registration website about the property record card. Third, if the owner listed on the County Assessor Property Record is a limited liability company, or LLC, then you will need that LLC's Certificate of Good Standing from the Colorado Secretary of State's office. There's also a separate training video available on the program's registration website about finding the certificate online. And finally, you will need your list of mobile homes, preferably using the program's mobile home address list template. We have made a separate training video on filling out the program's template on our registration website. Now that you're prepared, let's do a refresher on how to navigate to the online registration form and go through how to fill it in. First, you will want to navigate to the program's registration website as shown here. The direct link is cdola.colorado.gov/mobile-home-park-registration. Once on the registration page, you can review any of the registration information you need to. You can then find the link to the online registration form by scrolling down to the Register Online heading. Click on the registration form button for whichever is your preferred language. Clicking on the registration form button will take you to the login page for the online form. You can enter your username and password in the available fields. If you've forgotten your password, you can use the Forgot Your Password link and follow the instructions to reset your password. Once you are logged in, confirm you do not have a warning message stating you could not submit a registration form at this time. If there's not a message, and at the very end, there is a Submit button, you can dive right in. So, let's start back at the top. Be sure to review these instructions here. Of particular note, do not use Google's autofill function, and be aware that the form must be completed in a single session. There is no save option. Now on to part 1. This section is for information about the mobile home park itself. Some fields you cannot edit on the online form. Please simply confirm the information is correct, and if anything needs updated, email the program to make edits to those fields, as this note at the beginning of Part 1 states. This can be done even after submitting the form. However, if any of the fields you cannot edit are required fields, as marked by asterisks, and are appearing blank, first, check what web browser you are using. Google Chrome is the best for the form to work correctly. Second, if you are in fact using Google Chrome, contact the program before continuing. If any required fields are blank, you will not be able to submit the form. After confirming the park name, address, phone and fax numbers, and website fields looked correct, you can move on to the questions you can answer. First, there's the question about alternate names for the park. You may notice that the park name field has a non-business name. The program asks that the primary park name be a name that tenants may be most familiar with, if there is any. Then, in the Other Names fields, you can provide any formal business names related to the mobile home park. For example, here I have the park name as Example MHP. However, that's not the business name for the park. So, if I click yes to this Does the park do business under any other names question, and in the fields that appear, if I put in Example MHP Inc., I can record the true business name with the Mobile Home Park Oversight Program. If the business you provide is registered with the Colorado Secretary of State and has an ID number, you can enter that number in the Secretary of State ID number field. For my example, I don't have such a number, so I don't need to include it. Next, we can scroll down to the age restrictions question. This is not a required question, so you can choose to answer it or not. It is asked for data collection purposes. I'll mark my example MHP as being an all ages community. Let's move on to the park water information section. Here are those new water source and water sewer billing questions I mentioned at the beginning of this video. The first question is about the water source or sources. You must select at least one option, but you can select more than one if there are multiple source types. As you make your selections, you will see additional questions appear that must be answered. For my example, I'm going to select Connected to a Public Water System. 3 new questions appear asking for the water system's name, ID number with the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment, or CDPHE, and if I add additional treatment to the water. For the public water system's name, I'm going to say my example MHP uses Denver Water Board. I then need to find the water system's ID number. I'll click the link here to the online water system search hosted by CDPHE. I'll go to this name field at the top and I'll start typing Denver, a few results will appear. If I hover over Denver Water Board, an Only button will appear. I'll click on that. And then down in the table, there will be Denver Water Board's information, including the water system's ID number on the left. I will go ahead and copy paste this number into the registration form. And finally, I'll say we don't add any additional treatment to the water. The second question is about how you charge residents for water, and the third question about how you charge residents for sewer. Again, each question you must select at least one, but can also select multiple if needed. If you select Other for either of these questions, a required field will appear for you to describe how you charge residents. And of course, for those filling out the paper form, you will not get these automatically appearing and disappearing additional questions, but the same fields exist on the paper form underneath each selection option. For my example, I'm going to keep this simple and simply choose that the charges are included in monthly rent. Next is the section to upload the mobile home address list, or for those filling out the paper form, the page with the template. Both the online and paper forms include some basic instructions on the address list and where to find more information and guidance. Also, here on the online form, there is a link to download the program's Excel template. As a reminder, there is a separate training video on how to fill out the template. Once your address list is complete and ready, online users can use this Choose File button to upload their file. For the paper form, you can either fill out the page included in the form, attach additional pages to the form, or email your list to us. For my example, I'm going to go ahead and upload a file. And it'll show you the name of the file right here when it is complete. The next section of the form on lot totals is related to the address list. The lot totals fields are required for both the online and paper forms, and they should match your address list. If they do not, program staff will contact you for clarification. So please make sure your address list is filled in accurately and that these numbers match the address list. For the example MHP, I'll say the address list is completed and uploaded and had the following lot use types. After the lot totals fields on the online form, you will see an automatically calculated total number of lots in the park. This number comes from adding together fields A through F above. Please make sure you've entered in the correct numbers to get the correct total number of lots. For the paper form, you have to add up the numbers you put in question 14 and put that sum for question 15. For my example MHP, the sum of lots came out to 5. Next is the registration fee calculation. For the online form, there are no questions to answer in this section because the form automatically calculates the registration fee and the actual payment will take place after clicking Submit at the end. The registration fee is calculated by taking the number of occupied tenant-owned mobile homes, the number from field A from the lot totals, and multiplying it by $24. $24 is the current registration fee per tenant-owned mobile home. For those doing the paper form, you must do this math manually in question 16. Please make sure you only use the number of occupied tenant-owned mobile homes to multiply by 24. For my example MHP, since there was only one marked as an occupied tenant-owned mobile home, the registration fee will be $24. Note that it is not $120 since the fee is only due on tenant-owned mobile homes, not all of the lots. Let's move on to part 2. This is the section to provide information about the owner of the mobile home park. First, you will need your county assessor property record or similar document. There are some basic instructions here, and there is a separate training video on finding this information online. Please review these instructions and that training video for more information. Otherwise, if you have your document ready to go, use the Choose File button to upload your file. For this example MHP, I'll upload my example file. Again, to show it was completed, the file name will appear next to the Choose File button. For those filling out the paper form, you simply send a copy of your county assessor document along with your registration form. In these next fields about the legal owner information we are asking for is the owner as listed with the county assessor. So all you need to do with these fields is copy the information from the county assessor and type it in here. We ask that you do this in order to confirm that the information on file with the county assessor is accurate. If the information is not correct or needs updated, you must contact the county assessor with the updates. For your registration form, you can then put in the correct information in these fields and send a copy of your request that you sent to the county. For my example MHP, I'm going to say that the County Assessor Report shows Example MHP Inc. as the owner, and that the address is listed as 123 Example Street in Example, Colorado, 80203. Following the legal owner section is where you can provide contact information for the park owner or the owner's representative. For this first question about owner type, you must select which option matches what is on file with the county assessor. So, say the county assessor shows John Smith as the owner, you would select this first option, an individual or group of individuals. Fields for contact information then appear. If instead the owner is something like Example MHP Inc., you would select the second option, an Inc., Ltd., LLP, trust, or other type of non-LLC entity, and fill in those relevant fields. If the legal owner is an LLC, then you would select the last option, a domestic or foreign limited liability company, LLC, and fill in the fields that appear. For those doing the paper form, there are only two options for the owner type. The first option is for individual owners, like the earlier John Smith example. You can check off this option in question 19 and fill out question 20. Once you're done with question 20, you can skip the rest of the questions 21 through 23 and answer the questions starting in part 3. If, however, the legal owner is a business, partnership, or trust, any kind of entity, you will check off that option for question 19, skip question 20, and answer question 21. If your entity is an LLC, you will also answer questions 22 and 23. Back to the online form in my example MHP, I'm going to say that the county assessor record showed Example MHP Inc. was the legal owner, so I'll indicate on the form that an Inc., Ltd., LLP, trust, or other type of non-LLC entity is the owner type, and answer the questions that appear. To keep this simple, I'm also going to say that the mailing address is the same as what is on file with the county assessor. If you say no, fields will appear to provide an alternate mailing address. And with that, we've completed part 2 of the registration form. Part 3 covers the management of the park, if there is any, in addition to the owner. The very first question asks about the type of manager. You will want to select which best fits your park situation. Additional questions in this section and Part 4 depend on your answer to this question. This is the same for the paper form. Depending on your answer, you may be able to skip certain questions of the form. If you select the park owner also manages the park, their contact information is the same as in Part 2, then no new fields will appear. You will not need to make a selection in Part 4 since the owner will automatically be designated as the primary contact, and you can then move on to Part 5 and signing the form to submit. If you instead select the contact for the park owner entity also manages the park, their contact information is the same as in Part 2. A new question will appear asking if the park is managed under a separate business name from the park owner. If you answer no, then no additional fields will appear. You will not need to make a selection in Part 4, as the owner or owner's contact will automatically be designated as the primary contact, and you can move on to Part 5 and signing the form. However, if you answer yes, then additional questions will appear about the business that manages the park. And you will, in Part 4, need to designate whether the owner or the manager is the primary contact for the park's registration. This helps program staff know which business name to send registration materials to. If your manager type instead is an individual, family member, trustee, or owner's agent manages the park, their contact information was not provided in Part 2. Fields will appear for you to provide that person's contact information, and in Part 4, you will need to designate whether the park owner or manager is the primary contact for the park's registration. If you select a management company manages the park, their contact information was not provided in Part 2. You will also get different fields to fill in about the management company, including controlling entity information. And in Part 4, you will need to designate whether the park owner or park manager is the primary contact for the park's registration. The paper form differs slightly from the online form in that it does not have the contact for the park owner entity also manages the park. Their contact information is the same as in Part 2 option. If the contact for the owner entity manages the park under a separate business name, then you can select a management company manages the park and fill out questions 26 through 27. If there is not a separate business entity that manages the park, then simply mark the first option, that the park owner also manages the park, and skip to Part 4. Otherwise, follow the guidelines on the paper form for which sections to answer, such as if the owner also manages the park, you can skip the rest of Part 3 and mark the owner as the primary contact in Part 4. If there is an individual manager, you can fill out question 25, skip questions 26 through 27, and go to Part 4. If there is a management company or a business that manages the park, you can skip question 25, fill out 26 through 27, and then go to Part 4. To continue my online form example, for the sake of time and simplicity, I will simply mark that the park owner and the manager are the same. I will then not have to answer additional fields in Part 3, nor do I need to make a selection in Part 4, so I can move on and sign the application. Please be sure to read the legal notices carefully before signing your form. In the signature line, I will sign a person's name. Do not put a business name here. For the online form, think of this as something you're actually signing on paper. What name would you sign? Since for my example MHP, I had put in my name, Cassie Vandermeer, as a contact for the owner of the park, I will sign my name here. For the online form, once everything that is relevant to your park is filled in and all required fields are filled in, you can click Submit. If you provided an email address for the primary contact, That email address will receive a confirmation that the application was submitted. Program staff will then review your registration information. If everything is complete, you will receive an email or letter that the application was approved. If there were any issues with your registration, staff will contact you to clarify the information or request any missing items. If you owe a registration fee, you will be automatically directed to the payments page after clicking Submit. It may take a few moments for the registration form to submit. Please be patient. Once on the My Payments page, please confirm the amount you need to pay before continuing to make a payment. As a quick note, when you're ready to pay, you will need to click Make Payment and then the Proceed to Pay button that will appear in place of that Make Payment button. Think of the Make Payment button as you confirming the amounts look correct, and then the Proceed to Pay button as the link to the state's online payment portal. If you have specific questions or need additional assistance, please reach out. Our staff are happy to help. We can be reached by email at mhpop@state.co.us or by calling our toll-free number 1-833-924-1147. Please state your specific questions or a general idea of what you may need assistance with, and we will respond as quickly as we are able. Thank you.